subscribe or gives us thumbs up. Thank you for watching.
Yes, welcome to KKTV. And our discussion today is the Kenya examinations perennial paradox. The exams are always skewed. That's our topic. And here we have Evan Sunjiri, who is a teacher. What is that school where you teach?
I teach at District Brahma Education Center down in Brooklyn Park.
Okay, welcome. Now, you are the really most, you are an educationist, and you can tell us the education system in Kenya, the results came out, and this has been something which has been perennial. Like the result last year, which came out, is said to be skewed in a sense that that is how the KCSE exam, that is the graph of the KCSE exam for last year. When actually, as an educationist, you know that it is supposed to be a bell curve. But here, it is not a bell curve, because in a normal distribution, it's supposed to be a majority should be average performers, then a high performers are a few, and the low performers are a few. What can you tell us about that, why it's skewed like that?
I think that is a very good analysis of the results from this exam. I think, honestly, we have failed.
Yeah.
Not that it has to be the bell curve, but when you see lots of our students scoring E's, then we should just sit down and just say that we are not doing what we are supposed to do. We are failing as a country. But not completely, because exams don't tell the whole story about how a person is going to turn out in life. But it puts a serious question to the education system and the efforts we're doing to get our young adults or to get our children to be educated and be meaningful in the future. That's my thoughts.
So do you think there is something wrong? Because the Kenya National Examination Council calls this a standardized examination. And a standardized examination is supposed to work towards a bell curve. And what are they not doing right as an educationist? What do you think they are not doing right?
Maybe the conversation should be, maybe the exams are wrong. Maybe that they're not getting the right results.
Okay.
Should we have another way of assessing the students other than the exams? Should we move towards hands-on things that teachers can see in the classroom, and then limit the amount of exams that we do? I'll be interested to see what the teachers think. Does it mean that when those students who scored D's and E's, can you say that they never learned anything?
Yeah, that is a good question. But then, are they, after they mark their examination papers, do they just give grades like that, or they are supposed to compute every subject? For example, if it's chemistry, they mark, and all candidates, then they have to standardize that exam first, every subject. Or they are just marking, like if they say every subject, if you score 70, you get a C, for example. Would that be, they are giving us raw data for that?
I think, yeah, it's mostly raw data that they're giving us. Can we have a more rundown explanation, section by section, so we know if we are talking about reading, what part of English are they failing at? So can we have something that tells us which parts are not being done to the expectations. What can be done? Because when you fail, there's something you're good at, right?
Mm.
We should have something that breaks down the results to each segment, so we know which parts are not being performed right, or where the students are not doing very well. I
Now,
haven't seen that, but I know those who the chief examiners know, because they do an analysis of at the end of the marking period. But can that be shared with schools and with the public, so we know what we should put an emphasis on? But I don't know. We're moving to a new education system, so I really don't know what their thoughts are about this.
but I want you to see the comparative analysis from 2014 to 2016 KCSE exams. That is how the graph is appearing. You can see that in 2014 and 2015, the graph almost, even if it's not a bell curve, but at least it looks more like it's a normal curve. But when you come to 2016, that is when I think Matiang reforms came in, and then you can see these other grades slower, but we had a high number of failures. People who got like a D are many than before. So why the sudden change? Because you can see that even before it was more distributed.
I'm not well versed about some of the things that have changes that have happened in Kenya of late, but because I know that they have changed this number of subjects that students are taking. I know sometimes the curriculum has changed over the years, so I don't know if that contributes to it. Because our students are the same, that we are our children, they don't change. So basically, I think instruction is changing. Or is it marking of the exam that is changing? I'm not sure. But it looks like there's something that is happening that needs to be researched.
Okay, Dr. Lim, what do you say about that skewed examination results?
Yeah, thank you again for inviting me to the call. You just shared a number of the data from 2014, 2015, and 2016. The first 2 years, that is 2014 and 2015, appeared to have a normal curve, whereas 2016 there was really a spike at the tail end of people who are performing at a D and below, where more than half of the population really scored D and below. In normal circumstances, even when there is a change, that change does not really spike and skew to one direction. We still expect a normal curve, regardless of the environment where you put the same people. So obviously, like my friend just there mentioned, there is need for us to find out what went wrong for that specific year where we saw a skewed graph where thousands and thousands of people really went into one section of the curve. With that being said, obviously when you have a population of people who, and I want to mention this in quotes, are considered failures, that is not good for the country itself, and leave alone individuals and families that have put so much energy and money into educating their children. It is devastating when a family spends all their resources, and then thousands and thousands of those families end up what we may call empty, with a D or a D minus. And this year we had several E's. So it's instructive that our government should take time and be very cognizant that whenever they are releasing results, those results are really reflective of those individuals. Because once you have a D, it's a paper that tells other people who don't know who you are. When actually it's reflecting badly on you and you're not the same person that the paper is saying, I think it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Basically, I think what is lacking, they are not standardizing these exams. After they have marked the exams, if, for example, a subject in physics, the highest got 56, they need to standardize you cannot say that an A in physics has still to maintain that you have to score 90 to get an A. Because if you call it standardized, then if the best in the country got 56, it should be standardized, at least an A to start from somewhere. So that is when it will be fair. To me, I think there are, because that is so skewed, when you see like an examination, as I said earlier, that we have all these people getting D's on the other side, is not when we are actually supposed to be having a distribution that in a fair exam is where a majority of people are within the average range, and the upper percentile and the lower percentile should have few. So, and that is where the education system is.
Yeah, maybe we might interrogate. I'm sorry there to jump in. We might interrogate ourselves to find out, because what you put in is what you get out. Are we in a disputed manner? Are we giving these students in a disputed way throughout the Republic of Kenya in all schools the same curriculum? The answer is yes, the same curriculum. But are they having the same resources to use that and get the instructions they need to perform the same way? Perhaps that the answer is no. If the answer is no, then we need to know which sections and which population is this that is not having the same resources, so that when we are actually going to mark those exams, we know that this segment did not have exact same resources as this segment, even though we are really examining them the same way. So in my opinion, it's very unfair for an examination council to examine the students the same way throughout the Republic of Kenya, given that they are all coming from different backgrounds with different resources. Honestly, because how do you expect them to perform the same way, and then you measure them the same way? That is where the rubber hits the road. And I think we have very smart people in Kenya, and they know it. They solely be, honestly.
So are you trying to say, okay?
I can't agree more. I was just thinking about this graph. What if you did the same graph on the resources that the schools have? Would it look like that? Like which schools have better resources and which ones are in the middle and which ones are worse? If you did the best, the national schools would be on the right side, or maybe these village schools would be on the left side. Would that graph look like that? Maybe the graph might even be the same. It could be a mirror image of the results that we just showed.
Well, are you trying to say that we need to have a stratified exam, like for national schools that even the exam?
Not quite. But what we're saying is that there's an apartheid system in Kenya right now, where for you to pass, it depends which school you went to. It shouldn't be like that. That's why you see parents always asking, what was the result from last year? I want to take my kids to this school. You should walk to any school. You should walk to Nyakamincha, whatever you call it. You should walk to any school and have the same results. The resources should be the same. I mean, the debate is everywhere. It's in the United States as we speak right now. Some schools don't have enough resources, but there should be some balance. I don't know how that will be done, but we seriously need to start talking about it.
Maybe in addition to that, because that's really a good debate which happens in the United States all the time, even in our local districts, because various schools in poor neighborhoods really don't have the exact same resources as schools in other high-end neighborhoods, because you all know that resources really are taxed within the neighborhood in which the schools are found. So in Kenya, it's not the same. Resources are actually distributed not from the local area, it's from the national level.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? From the national level. This is where we think the government should do more. And not only when they are marking those exams. I believe those exams, as they come out, they should stratify them in a way. The same exam, but they should also go further and say, this child, Jojo, start his examination from a school with so much resources, with so little resources, yet he scored a C plus. This child who scored a C plus with so little resources is an equivalent of a child who sat in a certain school with so many resources and scored a P plus, so that we know a C plus from a local school with no resources is an equivalent of a B plus from a school that had so many resources. And that's how we can go deeper and know who is performing and who is not.
Ms. Wanjiri, you are an educationist. Do you think that is feasible? Those are so many parameters. How can
I can give you a story from many years, and some of the people I went to school with will corroborate this story. We went to KU. We were fresh. We came from different schools. There was this group of guys of students from Stare, I believe. So they were walking around with notebooks that said Stare. When we went to class and they were using those notebooks, and they would display them so you can see them, that they went to Stare. Why did they do that? Stare had a special place. Yeah, they just wanted to show that they came from a special school. And for us who didn't go to Stare, were not as at par with them. But guess what happened? When we took our first tests or exams, we failed terribly.
Yeah.
Because our grit and the way we were taught and the way we worked hard to be there is different than the way they worked hard. Yeah. And it shouldn't be like that, but that's the truth.
But that is all over. Even here, despite that a student goes to a different high school, but they will do the same exam, SET exam, which determines them entering a college. So this is something which is universal, that we can never have the same resources.
But I think the gap in Kenya is, can we close that gap? That's the problem. Can we make it a little less pronounced? The gap between those schools and the other schools is so wide. It's the same thing about the gap between the rich and the poor, which is very, very wide.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The gap is, I want to emphasize that, Onchiri, you just nailed it, is the gap. You know, here in the United States, we see that there are schools in the neighborhoods that don't have as many resources. But when you walk in, there are some standardized resources that you find in almost all those schools, except for a few things that you may not, especially consumable resources that are really there. But when you go into the infrastructure, there's infrastructure. There are classrooms, there are laboratories, and on and on and on. What we tend to see is resources that are consumable, like books that are consumable, that they use every year, and that they trust those, and the other schools don't have as much. And the most critical piece, which I can not overemphasize here, is in poor neighborhoods, just like in Kenya, parents really spend more time working, looking for food to put on the table, and there's less focus on supporting their children, and therefore they're not even more engaged to see how those children are performing in school. Whereas those schools where there is more resources, the parents are more engaged. So there is that one piece that we are not really putting into this puzzle here. Parenting and the resources they have in terms of food, shelter. So the poor parents really spend more of their time. They completely forget about whether that child is in school. All they want to know is, hey, are you in school? They don't even know what's going on with them, what challenges they have. Versus those kids, like you mentioned there, Chiri, who went to these high and national schools, maybe the parents are more engaged, and the parents are more supportive, and on and on. And the teachers in those schools are actually giving them more support and more attention, and therefore they end up performing better. Not that those kids are any better than those ones. So that could be one piece of that we may want to look at.
So basically what we have to agree is that the Kenyan education needs to work towards creating more people to the middle. That the student, the much of the population, we need to see representative that we have more average performers who can be able to go to some tertiary colleges like TVET and other, because when you give somebody that E, actually already you demoralize that person very much. Of course, there are people who will get E's in any population, but really the graph needs to be fair. They should work towards having more people in the population in the middle.
I agree, and I think we need to de-emphasize more on going to on a university education and go to the middle level colleges and the TVETs that you talked about. That should be our goal, since we need to catch up with these other countries, and these kind of jobs actually do more to support the economy than us who went to university, and then we can talk very good English, but then we don't contribute much.
We don't contribute much.
Yeah.
Now, and one of the issues, Kenya has really changed its education system for a long time, for many times actually. If we look at the history of Kenya, we started with the East African community where we had the 7423 system, which went from 1967, 1977, where we had this examination for East Africa, where we were doing with other countries. And then from 1977 to 84, we had the 7423. I mean, but it was for Kenya alone. Now we changed, it's only the examination we changed, but the system remained the same. And then we ushered in 844 from 1985. But now we have a new system now, the 2633 curriculum system, which has no examination. It was aimed with no examination, only competent based, but I think they changed that. They are having some examination. They altered it. Why have we changed the system? Why our sister countries like Tanzania, Uganda, and many other countries, they have not changed their system? Do you think that's a good thing? Njiri, you think that's...
I think we look like people are lost and we're trying to find our soul. Because other countries haven't changed that much. But I'm not sure if this was informed through research, and I hope it was. But I'm kind of happy about the new system. I'm not totally agreeing with it, but it puts more emphasis on the foundation. When you start from the foundation, from the first to the fourth grade, right there, that is where you build a foundation for the future. That's where reading starts. That's where arithmetic, math, that's where those things are set. Because the two things, math and reading, those are to be the emphasis. Once the students have that foundation, it's been researched and it's well documented that they will do much better when they go to higher grades.
Okay, Dr. Nim.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about the same thing, and I'm glad you asked that question. Even before the 1967-77 curriculum, there was CAPE, which was prior to that, in Perennial, which went all the way to 1967.
That is the examination which we were even doing with Malaysia. All these other countries.
It was even an international examination. Yes.
The Cambridge was used because.
Yes, it was. Exams were set in London and sent to these countries. So over time, I think we focused more on the structure, but not the content. Meaning that we were looking at 4 years here, 3 years there, and then we still give the same content and delivery is the same. Then the outcome will always be the same, because even if you say it's 3 years there, 4 years here, and then they came to 844, in my opinion, they should change the like now the CPC, which is new. I think they are looking at what really matters most is the delivery of the content and the delivery of it, and the expectations of it. Because if you only just expect good results, then people will focus on exams only and not develop skills, because skills is what is actually needed at the end of any training. You have the skills to perform. It doesn't matter how much you score, it's the skills that you acquire as you go along. You all know in the United States that you are given a point if you attend class, because they know when you attend a class for 1 hour, you will walk out different. You will not be the same. So you're given us a point for attending class. You're given a point for attempting the exam. you are given more points if you reattempt the same exam, because they know you have prepared yourself better than you were before. If you are willing to attempt the same exam, you are given that same exam to attempt it again. And because they know that you are going to prepare yourself better. So I think we need to change the delivery, the content, of course, the delivery method, and the expectation at the end of it all. So that we start giving people credit for what they know.
Yeah, but then...
So I agree with my friend Onchiri there, that maybe if we tweak really well the CPC methodology or structure, we might come out at the top of what we have been looking for a long time. That's why we've been changing those.
Well, Onjiri might be young. I think Onjiri went through the 844 system. And I think, Dr. you went the old system and me.
It wasn't our choice.
You went through 844 system, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
We did.
So, when they were castigating our old system, and when they were talking about the 844 system, it had all of these things which you are thinking CPC is going to. That's what we were told. We are going to produce technically skilled student from school. You know, like the 844 system was beautiful. This is how they were portraying it from primary, that you come to secondary, then others from primary who don't go to secondary, they will go to technical schools and polytechnics. And those who drop out, who doesn't go to university, they go to colleges and polytechnics. And then we produce entrepreneurs and many things. It was so beautiful, I tell you, because they were even bringing in primary school, they were doing carpentry, they were doing all of these things. So we expected people, plumbers, the same thing they are promising here. What are the chances that this is going to work? That if 844 all with these things never worked?
Professor Sifuna, he was an education professor in KU, really hated the 844 system. And what he kept saying was that the professor, I think some guy from Canada, that actually came up with the 844.
That was Gachati, Professor Gachati.
His terms of...
No, McKay.
Yeah, yes,
McKay. The McKay report.
The terms of his engagement was not to change the education system. He was supposed to see how Kenya can establish another university, right?
Yeah.
Then boom, he came up and say, you guys need to change the education system. There was lack of public participation. It was just facetly implemented. It's a system that needed a lot of resources, and so schools had to change in a certain way to fit the system. That was not done. So it was changing the years of learning, but not the system itself. That's why it failed miserably.
Okay. Dr. Lim.
Yeah. The 844 system, for example, which I had a chance to be of age to talk about when it was really implemented, and we were at the tail end of the other system, which was the OLA system, which was established in 1977. It was packaged beautifully and sold like a gold to the Kenyans, although it was really shoved down their throat because they had no choice but take it. And then the outcome of it was like, hey, we are producing. The reason why Professor Sifuna was hating it is because the selling of it, the packaging of it, did not produce the results that they were told it will. And partly some people were biased, saying that I wanted the old system, which was more superior. And there's no superiority in anything of these. It's the selling of it, the packaging of it really was not the right thing to do, because they said we're going to produce these, we're going to be industrialized based on the human resources we're going to produce. But you all know that we never really made the strides to be industrialized based on 844. So the same content, but the structure changed only. I mean, the years. It was the same delivery, same everything, but they changed. It's now 844. It's further 743. So that's why I said it's important not to focus on the 743 or 844 or 2358, But let's focus on what are we delivering really, and how are we delivering it, and what do we expect out of it. If we focus on that, I think we might be able to focus on the right things and focus on the right patterns.
So we can say McKay only copied the Canadian education system and brought it to Kenya. And now some other guy visited Japan and brought this system. This is a Japanese system. But don't forget that Japan has had this from 1945, when they were occupied after the Second World War. They were occupied. The United States of America started this system in Japan. Japan, from 1945, they have never changed this system. But they have only had some sessional papers. They have improved on it. They didn't change the system. Why couldn't we do the same way? Even 844 system, instead of bringing the totally new system, which is changing everything, that we could inject some of these things through this system on the way.
There is a new movement that is happening in the United States right now, and it's called culturally responsive teaching, CRT. Not to be confused with the other thing about race-based stuff that you hear in politics all the time. It's a research-based teaching method that connects students to their culture, language, and experiences in what they learn at school. Are we really connecting our students with our culture and language and cultural experiences? Are we just copying something from another country? That's something we should actually talk about. I know at some point they were saying we should even learn in our local languages, because at the same time you're struggling to learn English and you're struggling to learn concepts in a foreign language. Are we really interrogating our language and trying to see how that fits into the education system, our culture, our beliefs?
Yeah, that's a good argument. Dr. Nim, our time is fast going. We are past 2 minutes. What can you say?
I was going to add on what my friend said, that we should structure our focus on solving local challenges, not copying what other people are doing. Because Japan, 1945, in fact, I was privileged to be in Japan probably 4 years ago, and I traversed Japan from Tokyo all the way to Hiroshima. What the infrastructure they had in 1945 is what we have today. I'm telling you, the railway trains, they had all those things, and now that's what we're doing today. Because where they're at, I don't know how soon we'll get there. So it's not really the structure of 2, 3, 8, 4, 4 or 844 or what. It's what we instruct our kids. It is what we deliver to them. We are forgetting all those. We are changing the years. You can be in the same. You can be here 2 years, 3 years there. But if the delivery is different, like I don't want to overemphasize that. And expectations and resources to spread out all over Kenya, because they are very skewed. Central Kenya had all the resources for many years. Now they're kind of spreading out to other areas. So we need to go to the local areas and spread those resources to other local areas, so that kids should not be going to boarding schools. Kids should work from their homes and go study and come back home. Because remember, boarding schools, which I thought we could have had a chance to talk about, were established by the colonialists so that they can extract people from their culture and inculcate them with new culture and tell them, your culture is primitive. This is the correct way to go. And that thing has never left us. Yet they were brainwashing us in boarding schools. The boarding schools were meant to brainwash people. And we always celebrated them. They are not good things.
They are not good things to do.
No, they are not.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, our time is running out. I could give you a minute to say what you would advise the Minister for Education in 1 minute. Dr. Nim, what would you advise the Minister of Education to do?
The Minister of Education should take responsibility when things went wrong, agree with this and say, you know what, we messed up and we're going to have to clean house. This year, it was not the same. I think he let Kenyans down when we saw exams coming out with the students in the same school scoring the exact same marks, all the way from 1 to 35 students scoring 75%. That is not acceptable at all.
They are lowering the standards of Kenya. They're making Kenya look like they're not serious at all. The certificates of Kenya will not be respected again outside. Kenyans are very smart. You all know we are here, and Americans really wow that we have very good work ethics. We want the same thing to continue, but when we saw what we saw, especially the primary school examination results, I think the ministers will have taken time to take responsibility of it, go back and clean house.
Thank you. Njeri.
Lastly, I want to say thank you for having us in this show, which I never did at the beginning. What I would say is listen to the experts. Let the colleges, let all those professors at college, let them give them a chance to do research, give them money, let them do research and see what we need. Stop making political statements and changing policy and doing all this because of politics. That's what is bringing us down. Listen to those ones who know and let them advise you and accept the advice, and we can move forward. And also culture. This culture should be right in the center of what we do.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. I hope to continue the conversation.